Let's review the Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham. I feel as though we sleep on John Wyndham, like in the subgenre of science fiction. Like, I'm not saying he's H.G. Wells level of like era defining writer, but I would put him up there with like Arthur C. Clarke, PKD, and yet I feel like he doesn't get as much attention. And that is a shame because I had a good time with this. There were issues, but we can get into that. I like this a lot more than Day of the Triffids because that book, while being entertaining, just walks past the point of like silliness where it's no longer scary anymore. Like killer plants, I don't know. And I think John Wyndham was aware of that as well, which is why there's the whole comet that makes everyone blind. Like he had to compound it with that added challenge because killer plants just aren't that scary. This is much more creative. Like I feel like this has inspired other stories, and I liked what was going on here. So we are in the very small yet unassuming town of Midwich in suburban England, and one day there seems to be some sort of extraterrestrial presence that the government picks up on, and the whole town and everyone in it falls asleep for 24 hours. Strange, huh? Then they all wake up, but when they do, they notice that all of the women are pregnant. And what follows is this very strange period of waiting until all the women go into labour, and there's this whole generation of about 60 something children with golden eyes, and they're very strange behaviours. Essentially, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers by way of Stephen King's Tommyknockers, which two stories that I adore, so I was bound to love this. I don't think it's quite as good as those other two stories, even though I think this one chronologically was written first. So I definitely think, for Stephen King at least, I think this was a point of inspiration. I think he's mentioned this book before. But I don't know, I think it could have been longer. It's very short and it doesn't quite get into everything that I wanted it to do. And it also has that sense of anticlimax that Invasion of the Body Snatchers has, where they come to a solution and then that's sort of it. They don't have to worry about the aliens anymore, which is disappointing. I suppose what I really like about John Wyndham is that he will explore the science in the science fiction, which I fear a lot of modern science fiction doesn't do quite as well. Like this is a very good book for like sociology fans. There's a lot of behavioral science in this, and the exploration of how a new community assimilates into a group and the competition between the two based on their differences. Like I think this book, dare I say it, it can be quite political. Politics in books, who'd have thought? But this was definitely giving like, you could make comparisons of this to like immigration. I mean, it's a bit on the nose because these are like literal aliens, but you see how quickly the town turns on them just because they're all different and they don't engage as much with everybody else. And I just found that very telling of the times that we're currently living in. I could have done with it being more horrifying. Like I wanted the cuckoos, the aliens, to have more of a bloodlust, but that's just me, you know. Like I felt very similar. I think compared to like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the aliens in that, they're as matter of fact, but there is like a suggestion of like sinister behavior, like the way they talk to the humans, and they're like, we know you're gonna fall asleep eventually, and when you do, you're ours. Like it was, I like that. But I think that's why out of the three, the Tommyknockers is my favourite, because the aliens in that are evil. Like they're horrifying. Putting dogs in batteries horrifying. Like, oh. I just think Wyndham can be very ahead of his time in what he has to say and how he presents interpersonal relationships. Like when all of the women in this town get pregnant, and it's like a uniquely female phenomenon. Like only the men's lives haven't been transformed at all. It's the women who are having to go through this very strange ordeal. And of course, the men, all of the men in the town are like kicking up a fuss and like trying to mansplain what's going on. Like, oh no, this is what happened. And all the accusations, they immediately start blaming the women. And like, have you been cheating on me? How dare you? And the women are just like, excuse me. Like, I love how even in these extraordinary circumstances, men find a way to be like gross and oppressive. They're just like, oh yeah, but like, how do I know you've not been with someone else and that's why you're pregnant? Like, okay, all these women are pregnant at the same time. How about you cool down on your insecurities? She did not find someone else. You all fell asleep. It was weird. I don't have too much else to say about it, really. I think it's a solid science fiction classic. As I've said, there are similar books that I've read that I've enjoyed more. But I don't think that detracts from the importance of this one, and I think it's very smart. You know, at times that can feel a bit boring because there are long stretches where people are just talking, and I'm like, how about some screaming? But I liked it. I would give this like a solid 4 stars. I'm obviously going to read more John Wyndham. As I said, like, more love for John Wyndham. I think he's like, I think that's why I responded so well to Songlight this year, because you could tell that Moira Buffini had such a reverence for John Wyndham and like referenced him so much in that book. And I get you, Moira, because John Wyndham is the shit, you know? He is the shit. He is like, I have similar feelings about Ira Levin in horror. I'm like, why are we sleeping on Ira Levin, you know? Like, more love, more love. But yeah, I'd recommend this.